Good evening. My name is Paul Egan. I'm a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon in the United States. My advisor is Dr. Jonathan Kagan. I'm going to talk to you today about designing complex systems in the human body. So designers are traditionally taught how to build products, and lately we've been looking at global products, trying to connect us at a higher level, but I want to turn our attention inwards to the inner worlds inside of our body. So before we start designing in here, or creating designs we can put in the body, we need to understand how it works. So our body works through the collective interactions of cells. And we have a lot of different types of cells. These happen to be red blood cells. Typically the cell count in your body totals at about 1 trillion. I'm not entirely sure of the exact count, but even though all of these cells differ, they share some similar machinery. So this is a video of the inner life of the cell. And so what you're seeing is protein and molecular interactions. They're stochastic. This is from mechanical, chemical forces interacting together. And this is brought about a new paradigm in biology of viewing these as biological nanofactories. So they're producing their own machines and surviving off of that. And as a designer, I think that's pretty cool, and I like to play with these. Now, scientists don't always understand that. They like empirical evidence. So empirical evidence of design is we build systems and we make them better. And because we know how to make better systems, and the body is built out of systems, I think that we can come up with new ways of improving our bodies and health. So one of the ways that we've done this is we've figured out the body has modules in it. So we can take something like a diseased heart and remove it from one body and replace a similar one, and we still function. We've also come up with ways of creating artificial hearts. However, these aren't really improving upon nature's design or our bodies, they're simply repairing us when we're broken. One place that we can look at where we do actually improve our bodies is athletes. You could see them as redesigning their bodies to be optimized for a certain sport. So, of course, we have constraints. Like each of these, you can tell that they have a certain genetic predisposition, but they all participate in the sport of weightlifting. And they've excelled at this sport through continued training of their muscles and redesigning their bodies. Now, one of the things that we can't accomplish through redesigning our bodies in that way is if we have a genetic mutation. So what you see here is this is a typical heart, and this abnormal heart has a larger cross-sectional area of muscle inside of that. And that occurs because there's a genetic defect, so those muscles aren't producing as much force. So what happens is these chambers inside of the heart don't get as much blood flow through them, and that can cause a premature heart attack. And that happens rarely to some young athletes, and it's usually very tragic, and we'd like to come up with ways of preventing that. So one of the ways we've come up with in recent years is gene therapies. And what you do with this is you recognize the genetic defects a person might have, and then you create a new DNA strand with the desired properties you want, and you would introduce that through a virus into their cells. And then that would propagate throughout their body, and hopefully, if you do this at a young age, their bodies would build themselves in the proper way. So, I think for the future of design, where you think I might be going from here, is that we want to build genetically stronger superhumans. However, it's not quite that easy. And that's because of this complex biological problem. So there's so many molecules and cellular interactions that whenever we try and do these gene therapies, there's unintended consequences. So although we might get some of the macroscopic response we want, so in genetically modified food, we do this often. So you see a larger, better, maybe tastier looking fruit, we don't necessarily understand what else we're changing about these systems, and that could have unintended consequences. So what I see for the future of design is instead of trying to change the biology that's already there, let's just take the parts of it we want and build new systems that are simpler from the ground up. So this is a schematic of an artificial cell, and it would only have the components here that were required for the task at hand. For this particular cell, it was intended to do a medicine treatment inside of the body. So it would go to a certain location in your body and act as a nanofactory and use the organic components there to build the medicine you need, and then it would self-destruct. And also, the self-destruct sounds painful, I guarantee you it's a lot less painful than an injection. So, in addressing this problem, I take a small piece of it in my research because building these artificial cells would be a long collaborative process for many scientists and engineers. And you can envision one of these cells needing to move around the body. So this is accomplished through these motor proteins. And you can see the molecular structure over here on the left. And we can actually recognize components in those that look like ratchet designs in our macroscopic world. And that gives us an idea of how to change these systems. So one of the ways we can do that, and biologists have done this in many experiments, is we take one component out of the protein and remove it, and then insert another component, and then through simulations, we can predict how that's going to change the higher order system behavior. So for instance, if you have a longer lever arm, it could make a faster moving cell or allow your muscle to contract faster. Now, one of the experiments that we've done more in depth is designing a couple of these different machines. So let's say a fast and a slow one, and then combining them in new ways. This happens naturally in muscle. We simulate them, and then we validate the simulation with microscopy, which in that video what you're seeing is these filaments moving, they're labeled. And so by measuring the velocity, we know that the way we're designing these systems is working properly. Now, I'm not going to go over the details of these results, but these purple lines would represent systems where we're combining different proteins together in new ways. And you can see that by doing that, in comparison to systems that only have one type of protein, we're able to make them more robust and also use energy more efficiently. But all you really need to know is we're addressing the problem of trying to build stronger and better hearts and better medical treatments. So in the future of design collaboration and methods, I see new means of designers working with biologists to design new experiments. Also, we're going to have to change these molecules individually, so new design methods are going to be required there. And finally, we need to work with biologists and chemists in the medical community in order to build these systems of medicine that would provide us with healthier and more enlightened lives. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and feel free to ask me any questions throughout the reception.